Okay, welcome to the next couple of weeks of the course. Here we're going to move into some very specific ways in which technology can be used to improve the practice of teaching. So as I hope you remember, the overall goal for this class is to help you learn skills and strategies that can improve your professional practice as an educator through the use of technology in different ways. And there are 4 distinct areas that the course focuses on. Those include using technology to help build community, using technology to improve your instructional practices, using technology to help you manage the processes and resources for learning, and also using technology to continually improve your practice, to continually grow through professional learning or professional development experiences. So in the next couple of weeks, you're going to be investigating some specific ways in which technology might be used to help you build community among and between all the important people that are part of your educational enterprise. And those include you, your students, perhaps their parents, possibly the administration, and possibly other community members who you hope to make connections with in order to become part of the learning community in your classroom. It's really up to you. But at its heart, it's building community among and between those members of your class or of your job that are in it for the day-to-day. So primarily teachers and students, although certainly parents can be included in that important mix as well. So I'd like to start by just asking you a question about whether or not you've thought recently about the communities that you feel you're part of. What communities in your life do you believe you're an important part of, and that you feel you're an important part of, and what communities are important to you? I'll give you a minute to think about that.
1 minute later.
Okay, maybe not a minute. That's a long time in teaching and a long time in video when you're not saying anything. So I'm sure some of you thought about things like you're part of a family, maybe even an extended family, that you're part of a community of people who live in the same area and perhaps share the same values. You might feel a community with the people that you work with. You might feel a community through a church or some kind of a religious organization. You might feel that Radford University is your community, and you might even feel that the students who are in your program with you are part of your community, and you might even feel that as a member of this class, you're part of this community. But regardless of what you picked, there are certain things that are common among all people when they say that they feel like they're part of a community, or they feel like they're in a community experience that has meaning and value for them. So let me just quickly review with you what the literature suggests about things that make you feel like you're part of a community. One common theme is that you feel as if you are a member. There are lots of things about the community that make you feel an affiliation for it. So you feel like you are a member. And as a member, you feel as if you have some influence in that community, that you have a voice in the community. Another aspect is what some social scientists refer to as integration and fulfillment of needs. So the community that you feel you are a part of meets your personal needs in some way, in some important way. And finally, shared experiences and emotional connections are another important sort of construct that contributes to you feeling like you are part of a community. And it's funny, I have a little story about that. The last couple times that I have gone on a tour of something, And I've never been on like a big sort of tour of Eastern Europe or a cruise to Alaska. But I've done things like I've taken tours at important archaeological sites with a group of people where where it was limited to who could go, and I've taken extended tours of some large museums in a small group, and even in those experiences, by the end of the tour, I felt like the people that I was in that group with were in some ways part of my people, only because we all had this shared important experience together, and we were in the same sort of space together when we had those experiences. So just doing something little like that makes you realize how important having shared experiences are, and having shared emotional experiences are in terms of building community. Also, I feel that way with the people who I'm near at a musical concert. So I'm there for 3 or 4 hours, and we are experiencing things together. And it's just a look and a feeling that I have that I'm surrounded in some small way by my people. So this part of the class addresses how you might use technology to help you build community, build and sustain a good community among the people that you want to feel membership with. So what are some of those strategies in general? Well, one thing that's almost necessary is you have to have a shared gathering space. So you have to have a place where people gather, and of course in a classroom, it's usually the classroom space. So how can you use technology to help you create a gathering space for all the people in the community? If you think about this class, we use the homepage for this course, at the web address for this course outside of D2L as a gathering space. Every week or every 2 weeks, you're encouraged to come to this space and to get messages from me as the group leader, and to get some guidance. And you're having a shared experience with everybody else in the class who comes to this space. So that's one example, and that's one of the reasons why I use a separate space other than something like D2L, because I want to give that space some character and life to it. Now, as one of the leaders of this community, it's important for me to establish a strong social presence with you, for me to communicate with you personally, and to share a little bit about my own life and my own experiences with you, so that you have a connection with me as a person. And similarly, it's important for me to provide an opportunity for you to have a social presence in the experience. So you're going to be asked to consider how you might use technology to help members of that community create a social presence for themselves. So again, another important strategy you can use to help build community. Also, establishing a group identity is a good way to help build community. So as part of the Radford University community, you might wear the same kind of outfit, or a shirt that says Radford across it, or something that helps define you all as a group, a uniform of sorts. Obviously, any of you who have ever played a team sport knows the importance of everybody having the same outfits on to help build and define that distinct group. Another important thing is that the leaders of the group in their various roles need to be highly responsive to the other group members. So when there's communications going on, they need to be quick to interact with and respond. And I will say that for me, I try really hard to respond to any emails that are sent to me the day that they're sent, and it just kills me that sometimes I miss that I forget to check my email on a busy afternoon, and then it's late into the evening and I realize that somebody had emailed me And I hate that. So there are ways that I could fix that. I could create more alerts on my phone, for example, and be on it that way. But sometimes my schedule gets away from me. But that's a really important thing to consider, is to be responsive. And if group members have specific roles, and that's another important characteristic of feeling like you're in a group or building membership, is to provide distinct roles for people in the group. And one thing is to encourage responsiveness among those group members carrying out their particular roles. Another important thing to consider is to find a way to clearly communicate what the overall purpose of the group is. Obviously, if you're looking at a classroom as a group that you want to build community with, the purpose can be and should likely be just sort of implicit in the group. They're in their class, they're in a subject area, likely, and the overall purpose hopefully is to learn some important things, and it just advance their education that way. But regardless, it's important to always be aware of and communicate the purpose of that group. Also, norms and conduct for interacting and operating within the group need to be made clear. That's another thing that can really help to build community. And I will say this, one of the things that's difficult for new teachers and difficult for all teachers at the beginning of a new school year is to try to get everybody on the same page about what are the norms in terms of behavior for that community. And particularly if you're teaching an age group in which bucking the norms is sort of part of the identity that those students have. I taught 8th and 9th graders for many, many years, and I can tell you there were a lot of students who just wanted to do things differently because they wanted to do things differently. And it's important to recognize that, but also to be absolutely clear about what's acceptable and not, and what are the norms. And so and what the code of conduct is for all aspects of being in the community, for interacting with each other, for behaving when it's not your turn to talk or whatever.
Billy.
You.
Billy, we've already told me off. Let's move on.
You're tacky and I hate you.
Okay, you see me after class.
So that's an important part of the community as well. And finally, another important strategy is just to organize and facilitate shared experiences together. That's why it's really important for having students work in groups, but also to take students on journeys. And it doesn't necessarily have to be outside the classroom, but to take students on journeys that specifically elicit some kind of an emotional response. And it doesn't necessarily have to be outside the classroom, but to take students on journeys that specifically elicit some kind of an emotional response that they can have together. And sometimes that's just a matter of maybe bringing up a compelling question, something that makes them question their own ideas or their own values, and having an opportunity to share that and recognize together that there are some really important things about life as a group that they're all sharing together. And so those shared experiences are very, very important and very valuable. So those are some of the strategies that help build community. And so the purpose of this particular part of the class is to have you help, figure out ways that you might use technology to help carry out some of those strategies. So if you're in the EDET 445 section of the class this semester, you've got 2 specific projects that need to be finished in the next couple of weeks. The first project is to create a community building plan. And I ask you to go through some of those strategies and identify some specific ways that you would use technology to help build community. So for that project, you're going to have to tell me a little bit about what class that you're going to be addressing or supporting. It's the same class you described in the My Students page. And again, for this project, you'll create a new page in your web space. You'll put it underneath your community building sub-menu, and that's where I'll find it. So you'll have that plan. So that's one thing that has to be created. And then you have a choice of one of two projects, and you can look at both of them and decide which of those two you would be more applicable for you. One is using a tool called Class Dojo to help you address a certain kind of community building. In this case, it has to do with collaboration and supporting collaboration in the classroom. Or you could do this project that addresses how you might use instant messaging as a teacher in your class to help build community. So you can choose either one of those. And so you have those are the two things, two separate pages that you're going to create in your online web space under community building. Now, if you're in the EDET 620 section, so you've got three things that you need to accomplish in the next 2 weeks. You need to do the plan, a page with the community building plan. You need to do the Class Dojo project and not the instant messaging. And I did that specifically because I'm very interested in your perspective on how you would use a tool like that to facilitate collaboration. Because I will tell you right now, as a teacher of 8th and 9th graders, the greatest, one of the greatest sort of tools I had to be a successful teacher was grouping my students and getting them to learn how to be successful or collaborate in groups. That was so important. But you have to teach students how to be successful in a group. So that's what using Class Dojo is all about, or a tool like that. So you have to do that one, and so you don't get a choice. And finally, I have a reading that addresses the role of community in culturally responsive teaching practices. And this is an area that's so important to learn more about, culturally responsive teaching, that I'm going to have you do a very short reading from a site that has some of my favorite professional learning material on it, Edutopia. And then you're going to reflect on some of the content that was put up. So it's not a huge reflection, but it is, you're going to create a separate page, a separate reflection page, and respond to the specific items that I have listed on the project page for that reflection. So 3 things due in 2 weeks. Again, if you're in 445, you have the 2 things. One of them is a choice, and you're going to be creating new web pages for all that, and I will know where they are in your portfolio because you'll put them in the right place, and I'll be able to access those all in a couple of weeks. Again, if you have any questions or comments or concerns about any of the stuff online, please reach out. I'll try to be super responsive quickly. And anyway, I hope you enjoy these projects. They're very important and very valuable for you as teachers.